Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mass Retirees Weekly Update. Today's Friday, December 8th. I'm Sean Duhamel. Thank you so much for joining with us and tuning in again this week. Now, before I get going, I want to wish everyone who's celebrating a happy Hanukkah. I know just yesterday was the beginning of Hanukkah, so all the best to you and your family. I hope you have a wonderful celebration. In addition, before I jump into the topics of this week, I just want to thank those members, first of all, who came out earlier this week to our final area meeting of 2023. It was held in Auburn, once again at the Auburn Elks. They did a great job, once again, taking care of our members. We had a fantastic turnout, and it's always a pleasure to see so many longtime friends and meet some new friends. For those of you who have recently attended a meeting for the very first time, I hope you like what you see, and I hope you're getting some value out of all of this. And most of all, I hope you come back and see us again and continue to be an active member of our association. Now, speaking of active members, I want to thank those of you who have very promptly renewed your Mass Retirees membership for 2024. Frank and I, in our Thanksgiving message, indicated that we had a strong showing of support for the association, with just how quickly members have been renewing since receiving your 2024 renewal application. And I just want to let those of you who have not yet received a renewal, don't panic. Everyone renews on your anniversary date. So we have a big chunk, about half of our membership, thereabouts, renew every November and December, and then throughout the following year, members on your anniversary date of when you joined with us, you will receive the dues renewal notification in the mail. It goes a long way, first of all, to make sure that our association can function properly. This is all about strength in numbers. Our sole purpose is representing and being the voice of public retirees, so we are only as strong as our membership. The additional benefit for me, anyway, personally, as CEO, as the people are renewing on a very prompt manner, it really helps me to be able to plan for the coming year in terms of budgeting, just knowing what to anticipate going forward. So I can't thank you enough. And finally, on this topic, I really want to thank those of you who showed extra generosity by either rounding up or including an extra donation within your membership renewal. It just blows me away just how generous and thoughtful our membership is, and that's one of the most enjoyable parts of working for you and holding this position. It's just representing wonderful people. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And with that, let me jump into the topics of the week. And despite the fact that we're winding down 2023, it's already December 8th. We only have 3 weeks left, thereabouts, in the year. Where has the time gone? But this has been a super busy fall. I said that right after Labor Day, that we were anticipating being very busy. It definitely did not disappoint. We have been flat out really since the summer, and even heading into December now, when things again are kind of winding down, the holidays are coming up, we're still just as busy as we've been over the past several months. And there are really 3 or 4 main topics that we're focused on right now. Now, all of you know by now that Social Security, the WEP and the GPO, those topics have really heated up starting in November. They're always an ongoing process. We're always engaged. We're always checking in with folks on Capitol Hill and advocating for action on WEP and GPO. But the fact that the hearing took place in November and that there seems to be some momentum behind congressional action taking place this session, in some ways caught us by surprise. We really didn't anticipate anything happening with WEP and GPO during the current congressional session, just because of everything else going on. But we're pleasantly surprised. The hearing just gave us a lot of hope. I guess it's the lack of a better term, hope that something is finally going to break after 40 years of trying to provide some relief. Now, last week's message, we walked you through our key takeaways from the hearing, and I'm not going to get into that again. If you didn't see last week's message, there'll be a link in today's email blast to all Mass Retirees members, so you can go back on our website and look that up. Also on our website, and again, there's a link in today's email message to this specific page, is a link to our congressional testimony. Now, Frank Valeri and I submitted a 3-page letter to the House Ways and Means Committee outlining, really reflecting the voice of our members when it comes to WEP and GPO. Also urging Congress to act in the current congressional session. to restore Social Security benefits that have been lost to the WEP or to the GPO to the level that our members earned. And our ask of Congress is simple. Our members deserve the Social Security benefit that you and your spouse earned, nothing more than that, and certainly nothing less than that. It really isn't any more complicated than that. Now, at this point in time, we don't know what the next course of action will be for Congress and for the House of Representatives. We're hoping that shortly after the holidays, things will begin to take shape, and we may have a better indication of what's going to happen next, whether it's another hearing, whether it's a markup of a particular proposal. We don't know. We also don't know which of these various proposals may move forward. Of course, everyone hopes for full repeal under H.R. 82. But we may end up seeing other bills or other proposals move forward, and it could end up being something that none of us have even seen yet. We just don't know. The one thing I do know, however, is that we are going to continue to focus on these issues, and we're going to continue to do everything we possibly can to represent your interests and bring about relief for those members who have been harmed by the WEP and the GPO. It's something that we have been focused on for a very long time. It is far overdue. I think all of us can agree on that. And we're not going to give up. We're never going to give up until we are able to finally achieve relief from our members. And we really hope that it finally comes this year. Beyond that, there are major things happening at home here in Massachusetts. We continue to be focused on healthcare. There's been a lot of healthcare work going on this fall. You're going to see a lot of reporting on that in the January edition of The Voice, which should begin to appear in your mailbox, I hope, by the end of next week. And we'll have more on the January newsletter in next week's message. But you're going to read a lot about healthcare in the newsletter. One of the aspects of healthcare, however, that we are concerned with is what's happening at the municipal level. We are learning of more and more reports at the local level, whether it's cities or towns, who are kicking the tires on making changes to their local health insurance plans. Those changes could be bringing in a new vendor, switching from Blue Cross to something else, entering the GIC, leaving the GIC. There's a whole bunch of different possibilities out there. The other problem or something we're seeing is potential changes when it comes to plan design. So copayments, deductibles, premium contribution rates, really kind of all of those things go into plan design. Now, it's one thing to have these types of conversations out in the open and to have transparency surrounding the process. And in most cases, that's exactly what takes place. Local officials negotiate in good faith with local unions and retirees, and whether it's utilizing the traditional collective bargaining process or the public employee committee process, so-called coalition bargaining, those have been the traditional ways in which healthcare has been bargained. However, we are seeing a growing trend where some communities are trying to utilize the more informal insurance advisory committee process, or no process at all in some cases, and suddenly come up with changes to local health insurance plans that our association, who represents the local retirees as well as our friends from the public employee unions, may or may not be fully abreast of or knowledgeable of at all until it's too late. So thankfully, we work very closely with the public employee unions at the local level as much as possible to present a unified front on these local healthcare issues. But at the same time, we rely very heavily on our local members, or really all of our members, to be honest, to be our eyes and ears at the local level. So regardless of where you're retired from, if you hear of something brewing at the local level in your local community, let us know. Send an email, pick up the phone. You all have my cell phone number on your membership card. You have Nancy McGovern's information. Give us a shout. Let us know what's going on. Now, Nancy is our local health insurance coordinator. She works very closely with our union friends from the PFFM and the two teacher unions and the police and the other unions out there. Again, making sure that as best possible that we're presenting a unified front. But we need information to go on. Oftentimes, the first indication we get that something's brewing is when one of you pick up the phone and give us a shout. Let us know what's happening. Then we can coordinate our efforts with our allies and try to get out in front of some of these things before they take a negative turn. So if you hear about something, let us know, say something. Here in Boston, at the State House, there are two really big things that we're working on right now. One is our overall legislative package. You know that we filed 16 or 17 different bills. All of those bills, as of this week, have finally had a public hearing. The last bill had its public hearing on Tuesday before the Committee on Financial Services. It's legislation that would change the deadline for local communities to join the GIC. Right now, the deadline of notification is December 1st, which is kind of early in the process. We are proposing pushing that deadline back for notification to March 1st, and that would provide ample time for local officials, local retirees, the local unions to know exactly what the health insurance plan design changes or premium contribution rate changes might be at the state level to make an informed choice before deciding to go into the GIC. But it also provides it could cause complications on the other end in terms of the logistics for the GIC of onboarding new communities. So all of our bills are before the various committees. We're anticipating over the next 8 weeks to see a series of what are known as executive sessions where bills are favorably released from the committee. We don't know at this point when those hearings or those sessions may take place. And we also don't know for sure which pieces of our legislative package might be released. But we're working closely with the committee chairs across the board to have as many of our bills released favorably from either public service or financial services or healthcare finance as possible. So keep an eye on these weekly updates as well as the March newsletter for a full report of what happens with our legislative package going forward. And finally, and most importantly, in terms of our focus here in Massachusetts going into 2024, it's on the COLA, and specifically the state and teacher COLA base. That's not to say that we're not working closely with our allies at the local level across the 102 local retirement systems on the COLA, because we do that each and every day. However, at the local level, the current COLA law has worked very well in most cases. Most local retirement systems continue to increase their COLA base incrementally every few years. And you know from reading the newsletter that we now have several retirement systems who have broke that $20,000 ceiling and have a base of $20,000, $21,000. In the case of the town of Montague, a $30,000 base, and you can read about that again in the January newsletter. But at the state level, the state and teachers' retirement systems, which are under the purview and the funding of the state government, the COLA base has remained at $13,000 since 2012. We are now going on a dozen years since the COLA base has been increased. And even though the base was increased in 2012, that's the only time it has been increased by just $1,000 since 1998. So we've now gone 25 years at the state level where the state and teacher COLA base has only been increased once. It's long overdue. So our focus for FY25, which will be the next fiscal year, is really to take a two-pronged approach when it comes to the state and teacher COLA. One is that we are asking Governor Healy and her administration, as well as the legislative leadership, to support a modest increase in the COLA base. Now, the biggest challenge we have with the state and teacher base is the cost. There's no disagreement on the need to increase the base. Everybody understands the impact of high inflation over the past 3 years, that it has far outpaced the ability of your pensions, if you're a state or teacher retiree, to keep up. That argument, it really isn't being had. The problem we have and the huge hurdle we have to overcome is the cost. And the reason why it's so costly is that the mechanism in which the state and teacher pension funding schedule operates, these benefits need to be pre-funded. So it's not just the cost of the benefit for FY25. It's the cost of the benefit for FY25 and each year after that, because the COLAs, of course, are cumulative. It's also assumed that future retirees will receive the same COLA. So benefits for existing employees who will eventually retire, that's all part of the funding schedule mechanism. and it is very costly. For each $1,000 increase in the state and teacher base, it adds $500 million in unfunded liability to the pension system, as well as an additional $50 million a year to the state budget to pay the ongoing costs. So that's just a $1,000 increase. So that's the hurdle. So what we are asking for going into FY25 is a modest increase in the base to provide some support and some assistance of moving that forward for current retirees who have been waiting patiently for a number of years for some help. At the same time, we need to find a better mechanism for paying for these benefits, paying for the COLA benefits going forward. Now, back in 1996, we faced a similar hurdle where the state had to change its methodology and the approach to the COLA. In 1996, we formed a special commission on COLA reform. That commission report was passed into law in 1997 as Chapter 17. And over the past quarter of a century, that law has served us very well. Again, at the municipal level, it has been wildly successful. However, at the state level, we haven't been able to keep pace with inflation because of the cost of these benefits. So the time has come to create a new COLA commission with the focus on developing a new funding methodology when it comes to the COLA. So we don't need to wait 10, 12 or more years going forward for incremental increases in the base. This is something that really needs to take place on a more routine basis. But we have to find have to have the ability to fund these benefits, and it has to be done within the context of the pension funding schedule. So that's the challenge. Now, thankfully, we have a governor and a legislative leadership that we can work with. We met with Governor Healey's staff again this week on this issue, had a very in-depth conversation. We've had ongoing conversations with the House and Senate leadership over this from both parties. So we are very optimistic moving forward that we're going to have some movement and hopefully some success in the coming fiscal year. But again, keep an eye on these weekly updates on the newsletter. We'll let you know what's happening, and when the time is right, we'll be calling on you for help to reach out to your local legislators to reinforce the arguments that we're making on your behalf. But with that, I'm going to log off for this week. Thank you so much for being a member of our association. We appreciate you, and we will be back to you again next week with a preview of the January Voice. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.